Ugh. Seahawks lose 36-24 and they fall to 3-3 on the season. And I think it's important to point out that they are 0-1 against the division and 0-1 against the 49ers. Scoring plays, first quarter, Matthew Wright connects on a 25-yard field goal to make it 3-0. Top of the second quarter, Deebo Samuel on some just horrific coverage. A 76-yard pass from Brock Purdy, 10-0. Wright connects on field goals from 41 yards and 35 yards out. That extends the lead to 13-0 and then 16-0. And then right at the end of the second quarter, and I'll talk about that for sure, Jason Myers makes a 20-yard chipper, 16-3 at the half. Third quarter, George Kittle, a 10-yard pass from Brock Purdy to make it 23-3. And then Laviska Shenault, 97-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, 23-10. And Kenneth Walker, a 1-yard run, 23-17 going into the fourth quarter. Yeah, fourth quarter, George Kittle, another touchdown pass, or touchdown reception, from Brock Purdy. Bach Purdy. That's what a bird does. He box Purdy. That was terrible. George Kittle connects. Touchdown, 29-17. Tyler Lockett catches a 9-yard touchdown himself from Geno Smith, 29-24. And then Kyle Juszczyk, a 6-yard touchdown run, 36-24. In a game that, if I'm being honest with you, I don't think it was that close. They were nowhere close to the better team tonight. They were the worst team in every facet of the game, minus maybe special teams. And no, can't even go there. Positives. Thank goodness you won the first 3. You would be out of this thing if not for those first 3 games against bad football teams. And yes, I'm still saying the Broncos are a bad football team. Any other positives? The wide receiver core played okay. That's it. Well, so let's talk about the true positive after whether the Seahawks win, whether the Seahawks lose, if the Seahawks somehow get a tie. Simply Seattle is still great, and they provide the very best in Seattle sports gear. And use code MOLLYWHOP15 to save 15% off your order. MOLLYWHOP15 takes 15% off your order. It's a great deal from great people. You're supporting a local business. Awesome stuff for the Seahawks, of course, but the Mariners, the Kraken, the Huskies, Sounders, Storm, Cougars, Gonzaga. You can find stuff from all sorts of teams. Tacoma Rainiers. Really recommend you checking them out. And there's a link in the description to make it nice and easy for you. You got that right, Molly. My dog just snored, and I wish I could just go to bed right now because I would like to forget this football game. Is some of this based on the fact that I'm not a huge San Francisco 49er fan? Sure. I don't think anyone can deny that this is a rivalry. Sure. Yeah, I'm a little more angry because this comes against a team that I have disliked for the majority of my life. But I think I'd be angry no matter who they played based on how they played tonight. And I don't even really know where to start. Before I forget about it, I just want to talk about just while I'm looking at the score thing, because sometimes I'll say, hey, I'm going to talk about this and I forget because I don't script any of this stuff. And, you should be used to it by now, but this doesn't make it good. The decision to kick the field goal at the end of the second quarter makes no sense to me whatsoever. And it's not why they lost. Didn't help. Didn't help at all because 3 points there made no sense. You went from being down 2 touchdowns to checks notes, 2 touchdowns. Now, sure, you don't have to make 2 2-point conversions, but you took a 2-score game and turned it into a 2-score game. What? And some of you might be arguing that, oh, no, they took momentum with them by getting those 3 points. Blah, blah, freaking blah. Came real close to saying the other word. Yeah, go for it. Go for it. You got to get points there. And I'm not talking about 3. Hated that decision. Hated it. And there was a lot I hated about this game. I mean, Geno was awful. And I know the stat line doesn't look that bad. You look at 30 for 52, little under 60% completion. That's not good, especially in today's NFL, but that's not like crazy bad. But the 312 yards passing, great. He was as inaccurate with the football as I've seen him ever as a Seattle Seahawks starter anyway. He looked terrible. And he's looked terrible a lot against the San Francisco 49ers. And do you give some of that credit to San Francisco? Sure. Did Geno Smith have self-inflicted errors tonight? Oh my gosh, yes. That first pick, that throw to Tyler Lockett. Lockett wasn't like wide open, but a good throw gets him there. It was a terrible throw. Horrendous throw. And it kind of just set what was going to happen today. And the second pick was a bad decision and a bad throw. But other than that, it was pretty good. I like Geno Smith. I think he has shown some real flashes of brilliance, and not just flashes, some real substantive, never say that word right, some real strong stretches of looking like a quarterback that can lead you to the playoffs, win a division, and maybe win a playoff game or two. But then there are games like this, and it's just not good enough. It's just not good enough. He has to be better. The Seattle Seahawks have no shot at making the postseason if Geno Smith plays like this. Before any of you Geno apologists, and I love you all to death, go crazy and say, you can't just blame him. You're right. But if you think Geno Smith played well today, you have West Virginia colored glasses on or something. Because this was bad football. He was inaccurate. His decision-making wasn't great. Couple of nice throws. One of them, his best throw may have been the touchdown to DK Metcalf that gets wiped out. But that's not good enough. That's simply not good enough. And it sure would help if he had a running game behind him, but they don't. And I don't put too much blame on Kenneth Walker. I'd like my second-round pick to break more tackles than he did tonight. Sure, yes, he was getting hit a lot in the backfield, and he was able to move forward a little bit. I don't think he played his best game by any stretch. Now, I liked his usage, and I liked the fact that they were using him in the passing game. Would I prefer more throws to people like JSN than Kenneth Walker? Sure. But it's nice to get the running backs involved, because if you get the running backs involved, secondaries play you different. There's no question about that. One positive, actually, that I was going to mention, I thought Noah Fant played pretty well today. I guess I count him with the receivers. So, but the running game, and I get it. And this is the problem, when you abandon the run game as much as you did last week, and you force yourself to try the run game, 49ers know that. 49ers are well aware. And outside of a couple of runs, it was just really bad. 20 carries for 52 yards to get the touchdown on a 1-yard little dinky. Counts, but the run game is just not good enough. And the offensive line is a big part of that. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, do the Seattle Seahawks need Lucas back. Stone Forsythe against Nick Bosa was one of the biggest mismatches I've seen. I've watched a lot of football this year, a lot of it. And, maybe the sack totals don't tell you that he dominated, but at one point in 19 attempts against Forsythe, he had 8 pressures. That is an elite batting average. Now, that's more than an elite batting average. That is sensational. They need Abe Lucas back. Bad. Stone Forsythe is a perfectly cromulent backup tackle. Can't be the starter. Cannot be the starter. Um, Defensively. And yes, the Seahawks have major injury issues. And yes, those got worse with Trey Brown, who once again wasn't good today. I can't wait to read your tweet about how everyone's rooting against you, bud. Absolute nonsense. Do I go on this rant here? No. But the idea that Seahawk fans were rooting against you and not just pointing out that you sucked. Silly. Not that I'm ever rooting for anyone to get injured, but Trey Brown is bad. Artie Burns played okay, especially when you, all things considered, with the injury situation there. No Reek Woolen. He played okay, and then he gets hurt. And to be honest, the 49ers didn't really go after Nehemiah Pritchett or anybody else because they didn't have to, because they just ran the ball down the Seahawks' throats. And yes, 75 of their yards comes on that second to last offensive play for them. No, third to last. Yeah, third to last. But even still, 18 carries for 255 yards and 3 touchdowns. And one of those plays, that 76-yarder, is when you know that the 49ers are going to run the gosh dang football, and you still got your clock cleaned. The defensive tackles today were wretched. And yes, the linebackers didn't help. The secondary didn't help. I'll get into some more secondary stuff in a second. Watching Jonathan Hankins today was like watching a swinging gate, and not in a positive way. I don't know how it would be a positive thing, but he just got pushed around. He just got absolutely pushed around. Boy, they need Byron Murphy back and healthy and to take a couple of steps up, because this run defense stinks. I kind of thought that the Patriots game was going to be an aberration, Nope. Nope. That should have been a better sign to me. I'll take the L here. Not that I have anything to do with it, but I'll admit that I was wrong, that I thought that was just going to be a one-off because they couldn't throw the football and put all their resources into creating a run scheme. Nope. The Seahawks run defense is terrible. And look at the people who have beaten them lately. The last 2 weeks, it's been Tyrone Tracy. And this week, a talented, very speedy rookie in Isaac Garendo. But come on. And Jordan Mason, has put up good numbers against a lot of people. I mean, this was ugly. And also, the safeties today were just atrocious. Going back to that long touchdown pass to Deebo Samuel, yeah, there's a scheme issue there where Boye Mafe is covering Deebo Samuel, and what in the world? Obviously, coverage breakdown, great play call by Shanahan to create that situation, but not something they want. But then Jordan Love just hits the X button. Jordan Love. I knew I would do that. It's funny. Our text chain also called him Jordan Love accidentally, but Julian Love hits the X button a little too early and falls down. He's also the guy who got beat on the touchdown pass in the top of the third quarter to George Kittle. Awful. And Rayshawn Jenkins was atrocious. The back seven were all bad today. The linebackers were bad. The whole defense was bad. There's really nothing positive you can say about this defense. No pass rush. Bad. Shout out Laviska Shenault for the punt return, or excuse me, the kick return for the touchdown. Fumble was big too, though. Now, Seahawks, their one defensive series that I thought they looked really good, and they did a decent job on a couple of plays in the fourth quarter, just not nearly enough for me to praise them. But leads to 3 points. And, it's great that he gets the touchdown. You can't turn the ball over there. And they should have had another one on the D. Williams play. That was just an absolute failure by the replay crew. He absolutely touched that football. There's already been stuff out that they didn't get the clear replay, which it's not like this is $1 billion industry or anything. This was a bad effort. And I don't want to make it seem like I'm one of my least favorite things that I see is people who they do this thing with sports teams and they go, no. You're not good. We just suck. Trying to take credit away. It's something that a buddy of mine does all the time, and I just hate it. I hate it. Because it's childish. Anyway, I'm not trying to completely take credit away from the 49ers, but this ain't your 2023 San Francisco 49ers, folks. And you got worked. You got absolutely worked. And I know it was a one-score game at one point, fairly late into the game. If you watched the game, you knew that this wasn't a one-score game. Or at least it wasn't, they were not the better football team in any aspect today. And that 3-0 start is now gone. It's kaput. And you're now 2-2 at home. And I'm going to show my age here a little bit. 2-2 at home's not good enough. This is supposed to be one of the things the Seahawks pride themselves on, is being one of the best home teams in football. Two of the things that the Seahawks really, when they were their dominant run, two of the things that happened were, number one, the Seattle Seahawks were as good as anybody at home. And number two, the Seahawks weren't as good as anyone. They were the best primetime team in sports. There was, and this is not hyperbole, there were times where the Seahawks were not considered for primetime games because they weren't competitive, because they beat the crap out of everybody. That was a real thing that happened. Now, look, it's just mediocrity. And I have faith that Mike McDonald will turn this thing around. I think that he took over a roster that was below average. I have a lot of long-term faith in the Seattle Seahawks. But it's disappointing that they look like this right now, because the schedule, guys, it's about to get real tough. And it's also why, by the way, that loss to the New York Giants is just looking even worse, because you've got Atlanta, tough. Home against Buffalo, pretty darn tough. Los Angeles looks pretty bad. And then at San Francisco. What in the world, based on tonight, tells you that the Seahawks are going to win in San Francisco? It's not good. It's not good. And more importantly, it's not good enough. I'd appreciate you hitting like. I'd appreciate you hitting subscribe. Follow me on that, whatever they call that website now, at Crawford_MILB. Be back next week. Also be back on Saturday with a Kraken recap, and we'll start all of our Mariner stuff next week as well. Yucky. I didn't yell as much as I thought I would.